Destruction of a section of humanity and a part of our planet is the most diabolical and inhumane act that humankind can ever visualize. A nation, a country, a person on behalf of that nation or country that takes the initiative to use the atom bomb can never justify such an act of sheer satanic vengeance. It is totally against the teachings of all our scriptures and our deep sense of propriety. We therefore implore all nuclear-armed countries to commit never to start a nuclear war by adopting no first use policies as a step towards the total abolition of this destructive weapon. I thank you.
There's hardly a more iconic Australian site than this one. And there's few more iconic Australian movements than the movements to reduce the scourge of nuclear weapons. From the Canberra Commission in the 1980s to a parliamentary motion that I recently introduced in the House of Representatives, congratulating South Africa's decision 30 years ago to voluntarily renounce nuclear weapons. The NoFirstUse Global movement is an important one and will play a vital part in reducing the dangers that nuclear weapons pose to the world. I'm very proud, as a member of the Australian Parliament, to be a passionate supporter of this movement.
I am a former Royal Navy nuclear submarine commanding officer who in the 1970s served in a Polaris missile submarine with responsibility for the permission to fire key, which would have launched 48 300 kiloton warheads. I did so on the understanding that we would only be ordered to do so as a counterattack, to retaliate against an incoming nuclear weapon attack by the Soviets at that time. I would have withheld permission if I had had any reason to think we were being ordered to launch a first strike. So it was quite a shock for me to discover that first use had secretly always been part of UK planning, but had not been openly declared as such. We at sea were under the false impression that Polaris was solely a counter-strike weapon. And still today, hiding in plain sight, but camouflaged behind the comfort blanket phrase, weapons of last resort, is the fact that the UK's policy of strategic ambiguity, as it is now called, still includes first strike as a last resort, i.e. if our conventional forces are in danger of being overrun and we have nothing else to recourse to. But from a personal point of view, this ambiguity places today's UK Triton submarine commanding officers in an impossible position. If nothing is ruled out, then everything, including first use, can be ruled in. However, submerged on patrol, they have no way of knowing why they're being ordered to fire, what the target is, or the consequences on civil populations of doing so. They therefore cannot make the legal and moral judgments that the Nuremberg principles require them to do. So I fully support examining whether now is the right time to press for a global no first use policy.
Nuclear weapons are outdated, not only as a military and political tool, but technically in their operating systems. Detection systems and launching operations are reliant on dated tech that are vulnerable to contemporary cyber attacks and hacks. We need to start taking steps to avoid an inadvertent launch, which in the current system is more likely than ever. By ensuring and committing to the no first use policy, we reduce the chance of a nuclear exchange should the system be breached, giving decision makers the time they need to avoid reacting erratically and pressing the button. Youth and parliamentarians are key actors in this effort. To help, support Youth Fusion online and share our work around you to spread the word about this existential threat that concerns us all, and support the No First Use initiative to support the adoption of measures that will keep us safe.
I am happy to participate in the launch of NoFirstUse Global, and I commend its efforts to promote the non-first use of nuclear weapons. I think it's important to point out that unilateral pledges not to be the first to use such weapons are not sufficient and should not be regarded as ends in themselves. Such pledges are useful as a first step to discontinue reliance on nuclear weapons for national security. The international community, with the support of civil society, must continue to demand clear, irreversible, and verifiable measures of nuclear disarmament within a reasonable time frame. The continuing permanence of nuclear arsenals is unacceptable to the international conscience and is a source of insecurity for the whole world. As long as nuclear weapons exist, the risk of their use also exists. Nuclear weapons must be eliminated. Thank you.